I had just returned from a long deployment, the kind where time stretches and every day feels like a test of endurance. Coming back home should have been a relief, a moment to sink into familiar routines, to see Lisa, my wife, and feel the comfort of normal life again. But something felt off the moment I walked through the door. Lisa greeted me with a smile, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes, the kind that made me pause and wonder if I really knew her at all. Our apartment smelled the same, our routines were intact, but there was a tension in the air, a subtle shift I couldn't place. She moved closer to me as I set down my bags, her fingers brushing against mine in a way that felt deliberate yet hesitant, and I noticed the way she avoided my gaze, the way her lips curved into a smile that didn't quite belong. I tried to shrug it off, telling myself it was just the awkwardness of my return, but a part of me, the part trained to sense danger and deceit, felt an unease I couldn't ignore. Over the next few days, small things added up. Texts I wasn't meant to see, fleeting glances that lingered too long, whispered comments that hinted at a side of Lisa I hadn't known. One evening, as we were alone, she leaned in close, speaking in a low, playful voice that made my heart race, teasing me about how she wanted to do something intimate. I could feel the tension building between us, a mix of desire and uncertainty. I leaned closer, responding cautiously, trying to read her intentions, but before anything could fully happen, she recoiled suddenly, a sharp movement that startled me. Her face twisted in surprise and disgust, and she stepped back, muttering something about feeling sick. The moment was awkward, charged, and strangely revealing. I realized then that this wasn't just about physical desire. It was about trust, vulnerability, and hidden discomforts that neither of us had anticipated. That night, I lay awake thinking about the incident, replaying every detail, every glance, every hesitation. Questions swirled in my mind. Why had she reacted that way? What did it mean for us? And how could we navigate the delicate balance between desire, consent, and understanding in a marriage already strained by time apart and unspoken emotions? I knew one thing. This was just the beginning of a journey to truly understand each other, to confront vulnerabilities we had both avoided, and to face the raw, often uncomfortable truths that come with intimacy, trust, and love.
The days that followed were filled with a strange mix of tension and longing. Lisa acted almost like nothing had happened, moving around the apartment with her usual routines, smiling when I entered the room, making jokes as if to break the silence. But beneath the surface, I could sense the fragility of her composure. Every touch, every look, seemed layered with meaning I couldn't fully decode. I found myself second-guessing every word I said, every movement I made, afraid of pushing her too far or misreading her signals. We tried to share moments together, watching movies, cooking dinner, even taking walks in the neighborhood, but the air between us was charged with unspoken questions. One evening, she pulled me onto the couch, sitting close enough that I could feel her warmth, but her hands trembled slightly, betraying her nerves. She whispered teasing things, playful suggestions that made my pulse quicken, but there was still that hesitation, that invisible line she wasn't ready to cross. I could see the internal struggle in her eyes, the mix of desire and discomfort, curiosity and fear. I wanted to reach out, to hold her, to reassure her, but I didn't want to overstep or make her feel pressured. And then it happened again. She leaned in closer, her breath brushing against my skin, her voice soft, coaxing. My instinct screamed at me to proceed carefully, to read every nuance, but before anything could escalate, she froze, pulling back sharply, her face pale, and muttered that she didn't feel well. My heart sank. It was awkward, surreal, and yet it revealed so much about the complexities of intimacy, even in a relationship that had once felt seamless. That night I lay in bed, thinking about her reaction, replaying the moments over and over. I realized that our bond wasn't just about physical closeness. It was about trust, vulnerability, and understanding one another's limits. The incident was a reminder that even after years together, even after longing and separation, there were layers to each other we had yet to fully uncover. I knew we had to communicate, to confront these delicate truths honestly if we wanted to move forward. And deep down, I felt determined to do whatever it took to help her feel safe, to help us reconnect, and to navigate the fragile, often unpredictable path of intimacy with care, patience, and respect. Over the next week, our interactions were a careful dance. Every glance, every touch, carried an unspoken weight. Lisa seemed caught between wanting closeness and recoiling from it, her emotions shifting like waves I couldn't predict. I tried to be patient, to show her through small gestures that I understood and cared, leaving notes of reassurance, making her favorite meals, even giving her space when she seemed to need it. But the tension never fully lifted. One evening, we sat together on the balcony, the city lights stretching beneath us, and she spoke quietly about her fears, about intimacy, vulnerability, and feeling exposed. Her words were a revelation, a glimpse into the hidden layers I had never considered. She admitted that, moments before, she sometimes felt overwhelmed by emotions she couldn't control, by impulses that made her uncomfortable, and by the pressure of wanting to connect while also fearing the consequences. I listened, absorbing every word, realizing that this wasn't just a physical issue, but an emotional one, a mix of trust, anxiety, and unspoken past experiences that had shaped her reactions. I held her hand gently, letting her know that I was there for her, that I wasn't judging, and that we could navigate this together. Slowly, the rigidity between us began to soften, replaced by a fragile vulnerability that felt both terrifying and liberating. We spent hours talking, sharing fears we had never voiced, discovering the layers of each other that had been hidden beneath years of routine and assumption. That night, as I lay beside her, I felt a mixture of relief and concern. Relief that she was opening up, concern for the emotional hurdles that remained. But I also felt hope. Hope that through honesty, patience, and mutual understanding, we could rebuild the intimacy that had been disrupted, learning to navigate desire, hesitation, and trust in ways we hadn't before. And I realized that sometimes the most important battles aren't fought in distant lands. They're fought in the quiet moments at home, within hearts, minds, and the fragile spaces between love and vulnerability. As the days turned into weeks, our relationship began to shift in subtle, meaningful ways. Lisa's hesitations didn't disappear overnight, but she started leaning into our conversations, sharing more of her fears and desires, even when they were messy or awkward. I learned to read the small signs, the way her hand would brush against mine, the lingering eye contact, the playful tone in her voice that hinted at trust returning slowly, layer by layer. One night, as we were watching an old movie, she rested her head on my shoulder, and I felt a spark of closeness that had been missing for months. It wasn't about passion yet. It was about reconnection, about being seen and understood. We laughed at small jokes, shared memories from before my deployment, and talked about our dreams for the future. But the shadow of that awkward, shocking moment, the night she recoiled, remained, a reminder that intimacy wasn't always simple or predictable. I realized that healing this part of our relationship required patience, humor, and sensitivity. I had to let her dictate the pace, to create an environment where vulnerability was safe and consent was respected without pressure.
Slowly, she began to open up about the reasons behind her reactions, the insecurities and past experiences that had made certain situations difficult for her. Hearing her truth, understanding the why behind the shock and discomfort, helped me see the situation not as a rejection, but as a cry for understanding and support. I began reflecting on my own actions, recognizing the ways I had unknowingly contributed to tension through absence, assumptions, and the weight of military life. The process wasn't linear. There were setbacks, moments of embarrassment and frustration, times when we miscommunicated and hurt each other unintentionally. But through every misstep, we grew more attuned, learning how to navigate the delicate balance of desire, hesitation, and emotional safety. That period became a turning point. The incident that had once felt like a crisis transformed into a catalyst for deeper understanding. I realized that intimacy isn't just physical, it's emotional, psychological, and built on trust, patience, and mutual respect. And as we move forward, cautiously but intentionally, I felt a sense of hope that what had been fragile could become stronger than ever, grounded not in impulsive desire, but in real connection and honest vulnerability.
By the time a few months had passed, the awkward, shocking incident had transformed from a source of tension into a turning point for our relationship. Lisa and I had learned to communicate in ways we never had before, to express our desires, fears, and boundaries without shame or judgment. Our connection deepened, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, built on trust and understanding that had previously been unspoken. We laughed together again, shared quiet moments without expectation, and discovered new ways to be close without pressure or fear. That night of discomfort had forced both of us to confront vulnerabilities we might have ignored, to face awkward truths, and to navigate the messy, complicated terrain of intimacy with care. I realized that marriage, like any relationship, isn't about perfection or seamless desire. It's about patience, empathy, and learning to meet each other where you are. The journey wasn't easy. It was filled with stumbles, doubts, and emotional challenges, but the growth it brought was invaluable. I no longer saw that night as a failure or humiliation, but as a lesson in understanding, resilience, and love. We emerged stronger, more attuned, and more capable of navigating the complexities of human desire and connection. And I understood something profound. Sometimes the moments that shock, embarrass, or frighten us are the very ones that teach us the most about ourselves and the people we care about, shaping a relationship that can endure far beyond fleeting impulses or awkward accidents.